Rachel Thompson pulled her jacket tighter as she walked through the dark cave. Her flashlight beam bounced off the damp walls, creating strange shadows. She had explored many caves in the Pacific Northwest over her 15 years as a cryptozoologist, but this one felt different. "Mike, come look at this," she called out to her research partner. The beam of her flashlight had caught something on the cave wall that made her heart beat faster. Mike Anderson hurried over, his boots splashing in the shallow puddles. He was a genetics professor who had worked with Rachel for the past 5 years, and he knew that tone in her voice. It meant she had found something important. "These cave paintings," Rachel said, moving her light slowly across the wall. "They're not like anything I've seen before." The images showed tall, hair-covered figures that looked like what people called Bigfoot. But these creatures were doing something strange. They appeared to be stepping out of what looked like metal doorways. Mike cleaned his glasses on his shirt and leaned closer. "Look at the detail in these paintings," he said. "These aren't crude drawings. Someone knew exactly what they were painting." He pointed to strange symbols that appeared next to each figure. "And these look like some kind of writing." Rachel took photos while Mike made sketches in his notebook. They spent hours documenting everything, their excitement growing with each new discovery. The cave walls told a story, but not the one they had expected to find. Instead of simple hunting scenes, the paintings showed what looked like advanced technology. Machines, devices, and those mysterious doorways. Back at their lab at Pacific Northwest University the next day, Rachel couldn't stop staring at the photos. "Mike," she said suddenly, "remember those hair samples we found last month? The ones that didn't make sense?" Mike nodded and pulled out a folder from his desk. Inside were the test results from hair samples they had collected during their last Bigfoot investigation. The DNA analysis hadn't matched any known animal species. At the time, they had assumed their equipment was faulty. "What if," Rachel said slowly, "what if we were wrong? What if the reason the DNA doesn't match anything on Earth is because it's not from Earth?" Mike started to laugh, but then he saw the cave painting photos again. Those doorways, those symbols, that level of detail. His laughter died away as he began to understand what Rachel was suggesting. They worked through the night, comparing the cave paintings to other discoveries they had made over the years. Strange footprints that defied normal animal patterns. Unusual heat signatures in remote areas. Unexplained structures deep in the forests that seemed to disappear when approached. As the sun rose the next morning, Rachel and Mike sat surrounded by papers, photos, and test results. They had started putting together a theory that seemed impossible, yet it was the only one that made sense of all their evidence. "So we're really saying this?" Mike asked, running his hands through his messy hair. "We're suggesting that Bigfoot and other cryptids might be engineered species, created by some advanced civilization." Rachel nodded slowly. "Think about it, Mike. Why have we never found any bodies? Why do they seem to appear and disappear at will? Why do all the DNA tests come back inconclusive? These beings, they're not just random animals that escape discovery. There's something else entirely." Mike picked up one of the cave painting photos. "If we're right about this, Rachel, it changes everything we thought we knew about Earth's history. And about our future," Rachel added quietly. She looked at the strange symbols in the cave paintings again. Something told her they were just scratching the surface of a mystery that was far bigger than they had imagined. Neither of them knew it yet, but their discovery in that damp cave was about to set off a chain of events that would reveal the true nature of Earth's most famous mysterious creatures and humanity's place in a much larger universe. The Olympic National Forest was quiet except for the sound of boots crunching on fallen leaves. Rachel and Mike followed Tom Miller, a retired forest ranger, down a narrow path they would have missed on their own. Tom had contacted them after hearing about their cave discovery on the local news. "Been waiting 20 years for someone to find those cave paintings," Tom said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Thought about showing them to people myself, but they wouldn't have believed me without the science stuff you folks brought to it." Rachel looked at Mike with raised eyebrows. They had been suspicious when Tom first called, thinking he was just another person looking for attention. But something about his quiet confidence made them decide to meet him. Tom stopped walking and held up his hand. "We're here," he said. "Now, before we go any further, you need to understand something. They're not what people think. They're smart, maybe smarter than us in some ways." "They?" Mike asked, his voice shaking a little. "You mean you've actually—" A deep sound cut through the forest, something between a hum and a growl. Rachel felt it more than heard it, like a vibration in her chest. Tom smiled and nodded. "That's Mary saying hello," he said calmly. "She's the one who first showed herself to me, back when I was still ranging these woods." Rachel and Mike stood frozen as a large, hair-covered figure stepped out from behind a cluster of trees. She was at least 8 feet tall, with dark brown fur and eyes that looked surprisingly human. But what struck Rachel most was how she moved, not like an animal at all, but with purpose and grace. "Don't be afraid," Tom said. "They can sense fear, and it makes them nervous. They're guardians, not monsters." As if understanding his words, Mary made a gentle sound and sat down on a fallen log. The action was so human-like that Mike let out a surprised laugh. "She wants to show you something," Tom said. "It's why I brought you here." Mary raised her large hand and placed it against her forehead. Suddenly, Rachel felt a strange sensation, like a warm current flowing through her mind. Images began appearing in her thoughts, not like memories, but like watching a movie inside her head. She saw ships coming down from the stars. She saw beings of light working with strange machines. She saw creatures being made, being given purposes, being taught. She saw Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, and other cryptids, all connected, all part of a plan. When the images stopped, Rachel had to sit down. Mike was already sitting on the ground, his face pale but excited. "There's some kind of planetary defense system," he said in wonder. "Living security cameras, monitors, guardians." Tom nodded. "Been watching over Earth for longer than humans have been around. Mary's people, they watch the forests. Others watch the waters, the mountains, all the important places. They've got technology we can't even see, hidden all around us." "But why show us now?" Rachel asked, looking at Mary with newfound respect. Mary made another sound, and Tom's face grew serious. "Because something's coming," he said. "They've been quiet all these years because they didn't need to act. But now," he looked up at the sky, "now they're waking up all over the world. Something's happening, and they need our help just like we're going to need theirs." Rachel stood up slowly, her mind racing with the implications. Their cave discovery hadn't just been about understanding the past, it was about preparing for the future. Mary stood too, her massive form blocking out the setting sun. She placed a gentle hand on Rachel's shoulder, and in that touch, Rachel understood. This was just the beginning of something much bigger than any of them had imagined. Dr. Jennifer Walker stood at the edge of Loch Ness, her scientific equipment spread out on the rocky shore. The early morning fog rolled across the dark water, making it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Another email from that American cryptozoologist, Rachel Thompson. Jennifer had thought Rachel was crazy when she first reached out about the genetic markers. But after 3 weeks of studying the tissue samples she'd found in the loch, Jennifer couldn't deny it anymore. The DNA patterns matched exactly what Rachel had found in the Bigfoot samples. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" a deep voice said behind her. Jennifer turned to see Robert McDonald walking toward her, carrying an old leather bag. The local historian had been helping her dig through centuries of Loch Ness Monster sightings. "Robert, look at this," Jennifer said, showing him her laptop screen. "These energy readings from the loch. They're off the charts this morning. Something big is moving down there." Robert pulled some yellowed papers from his bag. And I think I know why." He spread the papers on a dry rock. "Found these in my grandfather's things," He was a keeper of old secrets, it seems. Jennifer looked at the papers. They were hand-drawn maps of Loch Ness, but unlike any she had seen before. They showed deep tunnels under the water, connecting to other lakes and even to the ocean. And in the margins were the same strange symbols Rachel had found in that cave in America. "Your grandfather knew about this?" Jennifer asked, her hands shaking as she touched the old papers. "Knew about it. He was part of a group that protected them." Robert pointed to a sketch of what looked like a massive underwater door. "There are gates down there, passages that only they can open. The creatures in this lodge aren't trapped here. They're guarding something." Jennifer's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a video call from Rachel. She answered it, holding the phone so Robert could see too. "Jennifer, you're not going to believe what we found," Rachel said excitedly. On the screen, Jennifer could see Rachel was in some kind of forest. "We made contact with one of them, the Bigfoot species. They're intelligent, and they can communicate telepathically." "That matches the old stories," Robert said, leaning closer to the phone. "The tales say Nessie could speak to people's minds, but everyone thought they were just myths." Suddenly, Jennifer's equipment started beeping wildly. The fog on the loch was getting thicker, but it wasn't natural fog anymore. It was moving against the wind, swirling in patterns. "Something's happening," Jennifer said, her voice barely a whisper. The water began to ripple, and a low humming filled the air, the same kind of sound Rachel had described hearing in the forest. Robert grabbed Jennifer's arm and pulled her back from the shore. The water churned, and something massive broke the surface. But it wasn't the long-necked creature people usually reported. It was smooth and metallic, like a submarine but not shaped like any submarine Jennifer had ever seen. "It's some kind of ship," Jennifer breathed, holding the phone so Rachel could see. The legends about Nessie being a monster. They were seeing this thing coming in and out of the loch. The strange craft hovered above the water for a moment, water streaming off its silvery surface. Then, with a sound like distant thunder, it sank back into the depths. "The Guardians," Rachel's voice came through the phone. "They're not just protecting the land and water, they're protecting ancient technology. And now they're starting to use it again." Jennifer looked at Robert, who was staring at the now calm water with knowing eyes. "My grandfather used to say, 'The old secrets are waking up,'" he said quietly. Looks like he was right. The morning mist continued to swirl around them. But now Jennifer wondered if it was really mist at all, or if they were seeing the edges of something hidden, something that had been waiting beneath the surface of their world all along. The Congo jungle was hot and sticky as James Wilson led Rachel and Jennifer through the thick plants. 5 days had passed since they'd arrived in Africa, and James hadn't stopped smiling since he met them. After 15 years of studying the Mokele-Mbembe, someone finally believed his stories. "Most people think I'm crazy when I tell them it's not a dinosaur," James said, cutting through some vines with his machete. "They say, 'Oh, it must be a lost plesiosaur.' But I've seen it up close. It's something else entirely." Rachel wiped sweat from her forehead and checked the strange device Mike had built for them before they left America. It looked like a compass, but instead of pointing north, it detected the energy signals they'd found at both Bigfoot and Loch Ness sites. "The signal's getting stronger," Rachel said. "Whatever we're looking for, it's close." Jennifer adjusted her backpack and looked around nervously. The jungle felt alive, watching them. After what she'd seen at Loch Ness, she knew it probably was. "There," James whispered suddenly, pointing ahead. "See that clearing? That's where I first saw it. Not many people come to this part of the jungle. The locals say it's protected." They entered the clearing carefully. Unlike the rest of the jungle, this space was perfectly circular, as if someone had drawn a huge circle and nothing would grow past its edges. In the center was a pool of dark water. "Look at the ground," Jennifer said, kneeling down. The earth around the pool was covered in the same symbols they'd found in the cave and in Robert's old papers. Rachel's device started beeping loudly. The water in the pool began to move, but not like normal ripples. It moved in perfect circles, like something was controlling it. "Don't move," James said softly. "It's coming." The water parted, and a head emerged, but not the long-necked creature James had expected. Instead, they saw something that looked almost mechanical, with smooth, dark skin that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. "It's like the ship we saw at Loch Ness," Jennifer whispered. "But this one's alive." The creature fully emerged from the pool. It was huge, easily 40 feet long, with a body that seemed to be both mechanical and organic at the same time. Its eyes glowed with a soft blue light as it looked at them. Then, just like with the Bigfoot they'd met, Rachel felt a presence in her mind. But this one was different. Older, deeper, filled with memories of watching the Earth change over millions of years. Images flowed into their minds, great ships arriving from the stars, bringing life to Earth's oceans. The creature showed them how it and others like it were created to protect the planet's waters, while different guardians were made for land and sky. They weren't just guardians. They were caretakers, making sure life on Earth grew and evolved as it should. "They're all connected," Rachel said in wonder. "Bigfoot, Nessie, Mokele-Mbembe, they're all part of the same system. But they're not just watching anymore. They're getting ready," James finished. "Look." The creature had turned its head toward the sky. From its body, patterns of light began to pulse, sending signals up into the air. Around the clearing, hidden machines began to rise from the ground, covered in vines and dirt from centuries of hiding. "It's some kind of activation signal," Jennifer said, checking her instruments. "And it's not just happening here. According to these readings, similar signals are being detected all over the world." The creature turned back to them, its eyes glowing brighter. In their minds, they felt its message clearly. The time of hiding was over. Earth's guardians were waking up, and they needed humanity's help. As they stood there, watching the ancient machines come to life, Rachel realized their discovery wasn't just changing how they saw Earth's past. It was about to change humanity's future forever. Back in America, Rachel and Jennifer sat in Mike's university lab, sorting through their evidence from around the world. Pictures, videos, and data readings covered every surface. They had proof now, real proof that Earth's most famous monsters were actually advanced guardian beings. The door burst open, making them all jump. A tall man in a black suit walked in, followed by a woman carrying a large file box. "Dr. Thompson," the man said, "I'm Agent David Cooper. And this," he gestured to the woman, "is Linda Bennett. We need to talk." Mike started to protest, but Linda put the box down and held up her hand. "We're not here to stop you," she said. "We're here to help. I worked at a secret research facility for 20 years. The government has known about these creatures since the 1950s. Rachel watched as Linda opened the box and pulled out old folders, photographs, and film reels. The photos showed military personnel standing near what looked like Bigfoot footprints. Another showed a strange shape in Loch Ness, taken from a submarine. "Operation Guardian," Agent Cooper said, pointing to a folder. "That's what they called it. After World War II, we started finding things. Strange machines, hidden bunkers, signs of advanced technology. And everywhere we looked, these creatures were nearby, watching." Linda spread more photos on the table. "We tried to capture them at first," she said. "But every time we got close, they would just disappear. Then we realized they weren't running away. They were using technology we couldn't even see. The government decided to keep it secret," Agent Cooper added. "They thought people would panic if they knew the truth. So they made up stories, called the creatures monsters, made people think they were just myths." Mike picked up one of the old photos. "But why tell us now?" "Because they're waking up," Linda said. "All over the world, just like you've seen. Our monitoring stations are picking up energy signals we've never seen before. Something's coming, and these creatures, these guardians, they're getting ready for it." Rachel looked at the wall of evidence they'd collected. "The telepathic messages," she said. The machines coming out of hiding. They're not just guardians watching Earth anymore. They're activating some kind of defense system. Agent Cooper nodded. That's why we need your help. You've talked to them, earned their trust. We need to understand what's happening before the whole world finds out and panics. Jennifer picked up some of the old files. Look at these dates, she said. 1962, hidden bunker found in Alaska. 1975, underwater structure detected near Japan. 1989, strange signals from the Amazon rainforest. They've been here all along, building and preparing. But preparing for what? Mike asked. Linda pulled out one last folder. Inside was a satellite photo taken just 2 days ago. It showed strange objects in orbit around Earth, objects that hadn't been there before. We don't know, Agent Cooper said. But whatever it is, it's getting closer. The Guardians are waking up, their machines are activating, and we need to figure out if they're getting ready to protect us, or getting ready to leave. Linda finished quietly. Rachel looked at all the evidence spread before them. Decades of secret research mixed with their own recent discoveries. The truth had been hidden for so long, but now it was all coming together. Earth's monsters weren't monsters at all. They were its protectors, and something was coming that would reveal them to the whole world. Outside the lab window, the sky was growing dark with storm clouds. But Rachel wondered if it was really just a storm, or if the Guardians were already starting to make their moves. Mary Parker stood in front of a wall of computer screens, her eyes wide as she watched the data pour in. As a quantum physicist, she had seen many strange things, but nothing like this. The signals coming from the cryptid sites were unlike anything on Earth. Look at these patterns, she said to Rachel and the others. They had gathered in a secret government facility hidden in the mountains. They're not random. It's like they're all talking to each other. Mike pointed to one of the screens showing a map of the world. Red dots were lighting up everywhere. The Olympic Forest, Loch Ness, the Congo, and hundreds of other places people had reported seeing mysterious creatures over the years. Each dot is a Guardian site activating, Agent Cooper explained. We've counted over 300 locations so far. Linda walked in carrying fresh coffee for everyone. The strange thing is, she said, they're not just sending signals to each other. They're sending them up. She pointed to another screen showing patterns of energy beams shooting into space. Rachel remembered what the Mokele-Mbembe had shown them in the Congo. They're calling their creators, she said. But why now? What's changed? Suddenly, all the screens started flashing. Mary rushed to her computer, typing quickly. Something's happening, she shouted. The signals, they're all changing at once. The room filled with a low humming sound, the same kind they had heard near all the Guardian creatures. Then, one by one, the screens went dark. When they came back on, they showed something new, a message written in those same strange symbols they had found in the cave. Can we translate it? Jennifer asked, looking at the symbols. Mary nodded slowly. I think we already are. Look, the symbols were changing, shifting into English letters right before their eyes. The message was simple but powerful. The N-A-2-O-R-K-A-D-U-A-N-S. Preparation time. 100 HFYs. 4 days, Mike said quietly. Whatever's coming, we have 4 days. James, who had just flown in from Africa, walked closer to the screens. But what are they preparing for? Defense or evacuation? As if answering his question, more words appeared. Guardians, unite. The children of Earth must be ready. Children of Earth, Rachel repeated. They mean us. Humanity. We're not their enemies. We're what they've been protecting all this time. The humming grew louder, and through the facility's windows, they could see strange lights in the sky. All around the world, the hidden Guardians were revealing themselves. Bigfoot families were being spotted near cities. Strange creatures were surfacing in lakes and oceans. The Mokele-Mbembe and other Guardians were emerging from their hiding places. People are going to panic, Agent Cooper said. checking his phone as reports started coming in. "Then we need to help them understand," Rachel said firmly. "These beings, they're not here to scare us. They're here to help us. They've always been here to help us." Mary's computer beeped again. A new message appeared. "The HFY has returned. Earth must be HumanityFYeah. All Guardians to stations." The room fell silent as they all stared at the message. After thousands of years of hiding in myth and shadow, Earth's guardian creatures were finally showing themselves to the world, and something was coming from the stars, something that would change everything. Rachel looked at her friends and colleagues. They had started this journey looking for monsters, but they had found Earth's protectors instead. Now they had just 4 days to help humanity understand the truth before everything changed forever. Bill Stevens had worked at NASA for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. His communications equipment was picking up signals from all over the world, and they were all saying the same thing. The Guardians were gathering. "The patterns are incredible," he said to Rachel and the team, who had moved their operation to NASA's main control room. "It's like they're all moving to specific points around the globe." On the giant screen in front of them, hundreds of dots showed guardian creatures moving across the world map. Bigfoot families were walking out of forests in broad daylight. Lake monsters were swimming through rivers and oceans, heading to meeting points. Strange creatures that no one had ever seen before were coming out of mountains and deserts. "They're not hiding anymore," Jennifer said, watching news feeds on another screen. People everywhere were taking pictures and videos of the creatures. Some were scared, but most were just amazed. Mike pointed to several spots on the map where the dots were gathering. "Look at these locations. They're not random. They form a perfect pattern around the Earth." Rachel remembered what Mary the Bigfoot had shown her. "They're going to their stations," she said. Just like the message said, each guardian species has a job to do. Suddenly, the ground started to shake. Outside the NASA building, something massive was rising from the Earth. It looked like a giant metal tower, but it was covered in the same shifting colors they had seen on the Mokele-Mbembe. "They're everywhere," James shouted, looking at live feeds from around the world. Similar towers were coming up in every place where the Guardians had gathered. Each one was different. Some looked like giant antennas, others like pyramids made of light, and some like nothing humans had ever seen before. Linda rushed in with Agent Cooper. "The president is calling an emergency meeting," she said. "Leaders from every country are seeing the same thing. They want to know if they should treat this as a threat." "No," Rachel said firmly. "We need to tell them what we know. These are Earth's protectors. They're building something to help us." Bill's equipment started beeping loudly. "The towers," he said, "they're all activating at once. And look at this." He pointed to his readings. "They're creating some kind of energy field around the Earth." They watched as lines of light started connecting the towers, forming a glowing web around the planet. The Guardians at each site seemed to be controlling the towers, using powers that looked like magic, but were really ancient technology. "It's a shield," Mary Parker said, studying the energy readings. "They're building a protective shield around Earth. But what are they protecting us from?" As if answering her question, Bill's deep space monitors started going crazy. "Multiple objects detected," he announced. "Coming from beyond Mars. They're big, really big." Rachel looked at the giant screen, where the Guardians were still gathering and the towers were still rising. Everything they had learned, the cave paintings, the government secrets, the hidden technology. It was all leading to this moment. "We need to talk to everyone," she said. "The whole world needs to understand what's happening. These creatures aren't just protecting us from something coming from space. They're preparing us to meet it." Agent Cooper nodded and pulled out his phone. "I'll set up a worldwide broadcast. If we're about to meet whoever created these Guardians, humanity needs to be ready." Outside, the sky was filled with dancing lights as the energy shield grew stronger. The Guardians had spent thousands of years hiding in Earth's shadows. Now they were standing in the light, showing their true power, and preparing humanity for something bigger than anyone had ever imagined. The whole world watched as the massive ships entered Earth's orbit. They were beautiful, made of the same color-shifting material as the guardian creature's technology. 7 ships, each one bigger than a city, arranged themselves in a circle around the planet. Rachel stood in NASA's control room with her team, surrounded by screens showing news broadcasts from every country. People everywhere were looking up at the sky, watching the ships through the shimmer of the energy shield the Guardians had built. "No signals yet," Bill said from his communication station. "They're just waiting." Mary the Bigfoot stood beside Rachel, along with other Guardians who had come to the control room. There was a Loch Ness creature in a specially built water tank, and even the Mokele-Mbembe watched through a video link from Africa. All around the world, Guardians and humans were working together. "They're scanning the shield," Mike said, looking at his instruments. "Testing it." Suddenly, all the Guardians turned their heads at the same time, as if hearing something no one else could. Then a voice filled everyone's minds, just like when the Guardians communicated, but much stronger. "Children of Earth," the voice said, "we have returned." The largest ship opened like a flower made of light. A beam shot down, passing right through the shield as if it was meant to do that. Where it touched the ground outside the NASA building, 3 tall figures appeared. They looked almost human, but their skin shimmered with the same changing colors as their ships. Rachel and the others walked outside to meet them. The Guardians moved with them, forming a circle around the meeting place. "We are the Watchers," one of the figures said, speaking in perfect English. "Long ago, we chose Earth as a garden world, a place where life could grow and evolve. We created the Guardians to protect and guide this process." "But why return now?" Rachel asked. The Watcher smiled. "Because humanity is ready. The Guardians have watched you grow, learn, and develop. When you began to find them, to understand them instead of fear them, we knew it was time." "Time for what?" Agent Cooper asked. "Time for Earth to join the galactic community," another Watcher said. "The Guardians were not just protectors. They were a test. How humanity treated them would show us if you were ready for the truth about life beyond your world." The third Watcher stepped forward. "Your world has many problems, but you have shown wisdom in accepting the Guardians. Now we offer you a choice. Earth can join us, learn from us, become part of something greater, or we can leave you to develop on your own. The choice must be made by all of humanity together." Rachel looked at Mary the Bigfoot, who had been her first guide into this amazing truth. The Guardian nodded encouragingly. "The shield you built," Rachel said, understanding finally coming to her. "It's not for protection. It's a communication network, isn't it? A way for all of humanity to connect and decide together." "Yes," the first Watcher said. "Through the Guardian network, every human on Earth can share their thoughts, their hopes, their choice. For one day, all of humanity will be united in mind, just as the Guardians are. Then you will decide." The world leaders quickly agreed. The next day, everyone on Earth would connect through the Guardian network and vote on humanity's future. Rachel looked up at the ships, then at the Guardians who had hidden among them for so long. What had started as a search for mysterious creatures had led to this moment. Earth's monsters had turned out to be its Guardians, and now they were helping humanity take its first steps into a bigger universe. The next day, humanity would make its choice, but looking at the hope in everyone's eyes, human and Guardian alike, Rachel already knew what that choice would be.